Alrighty, today we're going to talk about compound interest. So, we already talked about simple interest, and simple interest is calculated only on the principal. Whatever interest you earn in simple interest is not reinvested. Right? Therefore, it's not used in interest calculations for the following periods or years. And that's the one that's typically used for short-term loans. Compound interest is the more exciting one. This is calculated on the principal plus any interest earned. All right, so any interest earned during the previous period is added to the new principal. And this is used for long-term loans or long-term investments. So let's see what that looks like. So Jeremy and Sarah both want to invest $1,000 at an annual interest rate of 8% for 15 years. Let's see what happens if Jeremy invests his on a simple interest investment and Sarah invests hers in a compound interest investment. All right, let's do simple interest first. And we're going to do this by year, okay? So, in year one, we know that for simple interest, it's I equals PRT, principal times rate times time. All right, and now our principal was $1,000. Our interest rate was 8%. And since we're only doing this for the first year, just for 1 year. All right, we could do this in our head, but I'm going to pull up a calculator just in case you don't trust me. 1,000 times 0.08 times 1. Well, we don't need to write the times 1, but all right, that's $80. And that's in year one. Now in year two, the same thing happens again. Our interest is our principal times our rate times another year. So 1,000 times 0.08 times 1. And again, since the same numbers, it's going to be $80 again. And that's going to keep on happening every single year. All right, so our total, well, we know she's making $80 a year and doing that for 15 years. 80 times 15, $1,200, which doesn't seem too bad. That's how much interest. Now let's see what happens when we use compound interest. All right, year one is going to be the exact same. Right? I equals PRT, and our principal is 1,000. Our rate is still 8%, and this is just for 1 year. So our interest that we earned is the same as it was with simple interest for the first year. It is $80. Now this is where things get different in year two. In year two, we take this $80 and we add it to our principal. So now our principal is 1,000 plus 80. I'm going to put that in brackets. We times that by our interest rate, which is still 8%, and it happens for another year. All right, so our principal now, 1,000 plus 80, that's $1,080. So for this year, Let's calculate how much interest we made in year 2. 1080 times 0.08 times 1, $86.40. So already, compound interest has made $6 more and 40 cents more. All right, and then in year 3, we'd do the same. We're going to add this to our previous principal. So I equals, well, our previous principal was 1080. And we're going to add the interest we made. Times 0.08 times 1. Now our interest again. We can go to our calculator. I'm just going to use some brackets this time. 1080 plus 86.40 close bracket times 0.08 times 1. Oh, this year, $93 and 31 cents. So you can see already that compound interest is creating bigger numbers. You're making more money. But I don't want to do this for 15 years. That's going to take me forever. Instead, we've got a handy-dandy formula that will calculate 15 years all at once, instead of doing the same step over and over and over and over again. So let's use that on the next slide here. We've got this fancy formula here. It looks scarier than it is. So where A is the final amount of the investment. That's how much it's going to be worth at the end. Now this is interest plus the principal. P is the principal, again. R is the annual interest rate, again. N is the number of compounding periods in a year. What that means is when that, or how many times that interest is reinvested per year. So often it is monthly, in which case N would be 12. If it's weekly, N would be 52. Right? And T is the number of terms in years. So let's just figure out our previous question here. I don't know what A equals, that's what I'm looking for. Our principal was 1,000. Our interest rate was 8%. That has to be as a decimal. In our previous question, it was compounding yearly. That's when we were reinvesting it. So N is 1 for this question. And the number of years was 15. So let's put these numbers into our formula. P was 1,000. Big bracket. 1 plus our interest rate was 0.08. Our number of years, or our number of compounding periods was 1. And our exponent is N times T, 1 times 15. Now, because we're only compounding yearly, this makes this one really nice. 1,000 times 0.08 divided by 1. Well, anything divided by 1 is just itself. 1 times 15, that's just 15. Okie dokie. I'm going to do one more step before I go to my calculator. You could go straight to your calculator right now, if you're good with brackets. But I often screw up when I use brackets. 1 plus 0.08, 1.08 to the power of 15. Alright, now let's go to our calculator. So it's 1,000 times 1.08, and to do an exponent, you're often going to use this x to the y button, or there might be a button that looks like a little arrow. I'll draw it for you. There we go. That's a nice looking number. So our total amount is 3,172 and 17 cents. Now that was way easier than doing it year by year by year. Cool. And I'll do another example in the next video.